Over the years, the Duggar family has been entangled in a number of issues. Nevertheless, a few of the family members have discovered a means to leave and have fled from the family and the way of life that they were compelled to lead for so long. Jinger Duggar Vuolo is one of those individuals. Jinger has a new book in which she discusses her experience with an identity crisis and how it helped her find her way out of it. This is the information you need to be aware of. Jinger Duggar Vuolo discusses her journey of self-discovery. Jinger Duggar Vuolo has released a new book titled People Pleaser: Breaking Free from the Burden of Imaginary Expectations. According to her, the book is called such because it is how she viewed herself for a long time. Jinger discussed her life before she experienced an identity crisis as she was marketing her new book. Jinger stated, "I realized I was so worried about what other people thought about me that it kind of led me down not the best path in my thoughts, via people." She remarked that she would be concerned that she was fat, even if she was not. She stated that she started having these thoughts when she was a teenager. She remarked, "Fortunately, I had amazing people who supported me and helped me get through the difficult time of dealing with an eating disorder." According to Jinger, these doubts also made her a people pleaser. She believed that she was unable to advocate for herself and was simply attempting to please everyone else. She suffered an identity crisis 2 years into her marriage, which made her realize that she needed to make some changes. In 2016, Jinger married Jeremy Vuolo. "I remember that when we first got married, I was scared of almost everyone," she said. Jinger stated, "I'm afraid to trust them." She came to the conclusion that she was in a bad situation and was unsure of how to proceed. Jinger Duggar Vuolo claims that Jeremy helped her get out of it. On the other hand, she stated that this was not related to her husband in any way. According to her, Jeremy was there to assist her and he only wanted what was best for her. She remarked, "I think I was a couple of years into marriage when I had that jolt of like, okay, wow, who am I?" Jinger remarked that she felt like a clone of the person that others wanted her to be. On the other hand, she thought that it was time to express her true feelings on some subjects. At first, she kept it a secret from her husband because of the religious teachings of Bill Gothard. She was finally able to escape from that. "I believe he really helped me develop in that area because he would remark, 'I don't know who Jinger is. I would like to know what you are thinking about, what you enjoy, and what you do not like. If I do something that bothers you, please let me know. Tell me,'" Jinger made a statement. "That gave me a lot of freedom to be open and vulnerable and then to build real relationships." What do you think of Jinger Duggar Vuolo finally being able to escape the constraints that have kept her back for so long? Please leave a comment below to let us know. Jinger Duggar, a name that has often been associated with the Duggar family's popular reality television show, 19 Kids and Counting, later Counting On, has undergone a profound personal transformation over the years. While the world first got to know her as one of the many children in a conservative, ultra-religious family, Jinger's journey has taken a significant turn, one that is both inspiring and deeply human. Recently, Jinger opened up about the internal struggles she faced growing up and how an identity crisis ultimately led her to embrace her freedom. In the world of reality television, particularly with shows like 19 Kids and Counting, families are often painted as picture-perfect, living idealized lives that are difficult for viewers to relate to. The Duggar family, with their emphasis on traditional values, modesty, and strict rules governing behavior, seemed to many like they were living a dream. However, beneath the surface, Jinger, like many of her siblings, was grappling with her own set of questions and doubts. The Duggar family background, a life of strict guidelines. To understand Jinger's story, we must first explore the context in which she was raised. The Duggar family, headed by Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar, has always been known for its conservative Christian values. The Duggars believed in homeschooling, courtship instead of dating, modesty in dress, and a clear hierarchy in family dynamics, where the father was the authority figure and the mother was tasked with raising the children in a way that honored God. The family's lifestyle was deeply influenced by the teachings of the Institute in Basic Life Principles, IBLP, an organization led by Bill Gothard, which provided the Duggars with a framework for living. For Jinger and her siblings, this framework was not just a guideline, it was a way of life. Everything from how to behave, dress, and speak was defined by the principles taught by the IBLP. There were also strict expectations for how the children should interact with the outside world, including their relationships, career paths, and even how they should use their time. For years, Jinger adhered to these guidelines along with her siblings. As a young girl, she likely saw little room for questioning the rules that governed her life. However, as Jinger grew older, she began to experience feelings that didn't align with the expectations set for her. She was entering into adolescence and, like any young person, began to feel the stirrings of independence, self-expression, and a desire for personal growth. These feelings were likely compounded by her growing awareness of the world outside her family's insular environment. The identity crisis, a struggle between beliefs and personal desire. As Jinger transitioned into adulthood, her life began to diverge from the mold that had been set for her. While she continued to honor her faith, she began questioning the rigid framework that had been laid out for her. She admitted that she had struggled with an internal conflict between her desire for personal freedom and the deeply ingrained religious values that were the cornerstone of her upbringing. In her memoir, Becoming Free Indeed, Jinger writes about the identity crisis she faced. She acknowledges that she had long defined herself through the lens of her family and their teachings. She was taught to always be obedient, modest, and subservient, believing that her worth was determined by how well she adhered to these values. As she grew older, however, Jinger realized that this way of thinking left little room for individuality and personal growth. Jinger has spoken publicly about how the teachings of the IBLP and the Duggar family's ultra-conservative faith led her to view herself through a narrow, restrictive lens. The pressure to conform to a set of ideals that often felt inauthentic to her was overwhelming. This led to her questioning not only her religious beliefs but also her sense of self. For a time, Jinger felt trapped between the person she was expected to be and the person she was becoming. The conflict between these two identities, the one shaped by the strict rules of her upbringing and the one that sought freedom and personal expression, created a deep sense of inner turmoil for Jinger. It was during this period that she began to see the importance of forging her own path and finding a balance between her faith and her personal identity. Embracing freedom, the journey towards self-discovery. Jinger's journey toward freedom wasn't an overnight process. It involved a gradual awakening to the reality that she could still hold on to her faith while pursuing a life that was more in alignment with her true self. One of the key turning points in her life came when she married Jeremy Vuolo in 2016, a man who had a different perspective on life than the one she had been raised with. Jeremy, a former professional soccer player turned pastor, was less conservative than the Duggar family and brought a refreshing approach to life and faith. Through her relationship with Jeremy, Jinger found herself exposed to new ideas and perspectives. Jeremy encouraged Jinger to think critically and to examine her beliefs for herself rather than relying on a set of teachings that had been passed down to her. Jinger found herself more able to explore the nuances of her faith without feeling restricted by the rigid teachings she had grown up with. She also began to see that her worth wasn't tied to how well she conformed to traditional expectations, but rather to who she was as an individual. Over time, Jinger began to distance herself from some of the more extreme aspects of her upbringing. She chose to wear more modern clothing, something that had previously been discouraged in the Duggar family. she and Jeremy moved to Los Angeles where they could experience a more secular, diverse environment. Jinger also began speaking out about her experiences, sharing her story with the public through her memoir and social media. She used her platform to encourage others who might feel trapped by rigid ideologies to find their own voice and live authentically. One of the most significant aspects of Jinger's transformation was her decision to let go of the belief that she had to live up to other people's expectations in order to be valued. She writes about how, for years, she had lived her life according to what others, primarily her parents and the IBLP, expected of her. But as she began to understand her own identity, she realized that she could live a fulfilling life on her terms, even if it meant challenging the beliefs she had been raised with. Reclaiming her voice and story. Jinger's decision to break free from the constraints of her upbringing has empowered her to reclaim her voice and share her story with the world. In her memoir, Becoming Free Indeed, Jinger takes readers on a journey through her life, from her early years in the Duggar family to her present-day experiences as a wife, mother, and individual in her own right. The book is not only a recounting of her personal struggles but also a broader commentary on the dangers of rigid religious ideologies and the importance of self-exploration and autonomy. By telling her story, Jinger has found a sense of freedom that goes beyond the physical. It's a freedom of the mind and spirit. She encourages others to embrace their own journey of self-discovery, regardless of the circumstances they were born into. Jinger's willingness to open up about her struggles with faith, identity, and freedom has resonated with many, particularly those who have been raised in conservative or religious households. What makes Jinger's story particularly powerful is the fact that she hasn't rejected her faith altogether. Instead, she has found a way to reconcile her beliefs with her own sense of self. Jinger's journey toward freedom is not about abandoning her roots, but rather about understanding them in a new light. It's about recognizing that she doesn't have to conform to a set of rules in order to honor her faith or be a good person. The power of authenticity. At its core, Jinger Duggar's story is about the power of authenticity. In a world that often tries to mold individuals into predefined categories, Jinger's ability to break free from the constraints of her upbringing is a testament to the strength of the human spirit. It serves as a reminder that personal growth often requires discomfort, self-reflection, and the courage to make difficult choices. Jinger's journey is also a reminder that freedom is not just about physical liberation but about mental and emotional liberation as well. True freedom comes when we stop living for others and begin living for ourselves. For Jinger, this meant embracing the uncertainty that comes with forging a new path, one that wasn't defined by her family, faith, or society's expectations. Through her struggles and triumphs, Jinger Duggar has found a sense of freedom that is deeply meaningful to her. Her story is a powerful example of how an identity crisis can be a catalyst for transformation. Rather than seeing her crisis as something negative, Jinger has used it as an opportunity for growth, self-discovery, and liberation. And in doing so, she has inspired others to do the same. As Jinger continues to navigate her journey, she remains an example of how we all can embrace our freedom to become our true selves, even when it means challenging long-held beliefs or stepping outside of our comfort zones. Her story is one of resilience, courage, and the unwavering pursuit of personal truth, qualities that resonate with anyone who has ever faced an identity crisis of their own.